Welcome back. Gonna go out and do a little bit more work today. Thought I'd show you another piece of equipment. I don't think I've spent any time working on, or I've spent any time taking video of. I know I've got a video in the pipeline about my little Ferguson tractor. It's TO30. Did one on the little Backhoe mower that we got in the other day. Today, I think we're gonna go out and take a look at my little Ford. Well, it's not so little Ford 455C backhoe. Which, if you're looking for a pretty economical backhoe, I would recommend a Ford. And I'm not a Ford devotee by any stretch of the imagination. I think I've only ever owned I think 3, including that. So a car, had a Bronco too, because there's fewer classier vehicles than that. There's nothing wrong with the Bronco too. It did very well for me, but those things are a death trap on ice for anybody driving one. You want to keep that in the garage whenever there's any ice in the ground. Anyway, so we'll go out and take a look at this backhoe and show you some of the stuff. And I was watching another guy's, because I don't just make YouTube, I also spend a little bit of time watching. And I was watching a guy that's outdoors with the Morgans the other day. He's a good machine operator. I like watching him. He does. He's got a lot more time to video apparently than I do. But he was talking about how he's got a little he had rented a little Bobcat mini-excavator, which are really handy little machines. But that one was easily switchable apparently between whatever kind of controls and cat. Now when I got this one, I looked at it and I thought, well, I could change it. Because if I remember right, it's John Deere controls is what's on this, which is just one opposite from, like, it just switches one function from one valve to the other. So I learned how on a cat machine. I learned to run a cat, like a big excavator back in the day, or cat controls. So I still think about it mostly for my son. If he starts running it, then I'd rather cat's a little more common out there, I think. So, but we'll see. I'll get to that later on. I've gotten to the point where I can kind of run it whichever. It takes 15 or 20 minutes to get used to it, but other than that, I didn't make much difference. And we'll see out by the machine. All right, so I'm standing out here next to my backhoe here. Let's set this down. I record these on my phone, so if there's shakiness, that's probably why. All right, these are I actually brought out a couple of pairs of gloves because I was going to show. So these are the oldest gloves that I probably still wear, because these are kind of oil soaked, and I spend a lot of time. I used to be a mechanic. I spent a lot of time in diesel fuel and stuff, and so there's positives and negatives to gloves. I actually had a skin condition for a while because of all the chemicals and stuff, and I think I finally got rid of it. But so the negative of gloves is that it holds stuff on your hands a little bit longer. But the positive is that it actually, so if you don't let them get soaked, like these are dried out, so they don't have anything soaked through them anymore. Well, I'm sure there's still some oil on the inside, but you know what I mean there. So I wear these to keep some stuff off my hand. And these are supplyable at this point. They've worn down. Now I got this pair the other day. Got these from a place here local called Cal Ranch. Which I know they're all over. There's only a couple here, my part of the state. But if you want some strong gloves, boy, these are, who made these? I forget who made these. I don't think there's even made by the extra large company apparently. I don't remember who made them. But they got they're a regular glove, and then they took a piece of leather and they sewed it all across the palm here, up around the thumb, and then it actually winds around the index finger for all you glove wearers. You know that this part right here, like this seam here is starting to come out. Well, they wound that leather all the way around, so you're covering that seam, although these are built a little bit different, but they're covering that kind of weak spot on the glove. And you get really good, actually these are great for picking up really hot stuff because they get at least double thick all the way across on the palm, whereas these you can't really see it there, well maybe in that angle you can see there is a piece of leather here, and then they got a cutout key thumb here. These are different glove construction, but those are solid gloves if you need a new pair. These though the only problem with those is they're really stiff. So here I'm out here Looks like I've still got oil in my backhoe, which is something, that's the most important thing you can do on these machines, is make sure that your oil is filled appropriately. Oil, hydraulic fluid, if you have a hydraulic system, coolant. Now on a backhoe, can be kind of hard to check hydraulic fluid. You kind of got to have a idea of where your pistons are at, because there's any of these machines, they've got a place where the oil should be on the dipstick given X, right? So given the X being all the pistons out, all the pistons in, whatever that is. And like on my little Ferguson, I think it says with, I forget if it's up or, it says extended, I think. So I believe that'd be up. And then fuel, boy, it sits down here for a minute. I tighten that thing with some kind of superhuman strength. Not really, it's a plastic cap on a plastic. Of course, the fuel never has a dipstick for some reason. Why wouldn't? I never understood that. You gotta take your best guess. But that was loud. So, fluids are all good. Now, the other thing you want to check, and I'm not going to check it right now. I recommend checking, depends on how often you use your machine, and as long as you keep track of what's underneath of it. So I know I'm losing some hydraulic fluid out the back, which is coming out, it looks like probably maybe the stick valve, the valve that runs the boom stick, which is this elbow part, runs be this cylinder up here. I believe that that's the valve that I've got that's bad. I lose a little everywhere. I mean, hydraulic systems are prone to leakage. It's real high pressure, and seals just don't hold up over a long time. Hoses have a tendency to go, especially out here. It's real dry. It dries the rubber out, and you lose hoses. But I'm losing a little bit of hydraulic oil in here, so this is one of the reasons why I want to get a pressure washer, kind of gingerly wash all this off, and then figure out where I'm getting leaks. In fact, it looks like I have a leak on my right swing cylinder. And unrelated to that, it just occurred to me, I've got a space for I need to get a thumb on my boom here. I'd be able to get a lot more work done if I had a thumb. So that's for everybody that doesn't run one of these things. This is your bucket, and there's your boom. A thumb has a hydraulic cylinder that hooks up here, and there's a cylinder. Well, so it depends on how it's built, but you basically have a pivot, and then somewhere you have a hydraulic cylinder that brings well, it's just like a thumb. It's like the other end of a bucket, basically, and it comes down, and usually you can grab stuff with the teeth of the bucket back here from over here, so you can grab trees and stuff. Makes it easier for loading. Another thing that I wouldn't see, I'm not planning to run this machine right now, but you always want to keep everything greased up. If you hear creaking when you're running even the front loader on your tractor, that creaking probably means that you are wearing a pin or a bushing or something somewhere. So that means you're not greasing enough. And I'm going to order up I saw a new grease coupling, because actually that's something that takes a long time. Using both hands and you're trying to hold a grease fitting over a grease earth there can get a little bit tiring, especially when they're worn out. I heard a noise. I got some baby chicks over here. Well, it ain't a baby anymore, probably about a month old, month and a half maybe. In fact, I think I put a video of them up. At least on the Facebook page I did. So, where was I? Oh, greasing. So yeah, you want to make sure everything's greased up and use a good high quality grease. If you're cheap on the grease, you'll have problems in the long run. Alright, and then another thing, I absolutely acknowledge that this is not the ideal way to carry your fire extinguisher, but this thing right here So I think this machine, I paid about, I want to say it was $11,000 for this machine. That's a $50 fire extinguisher, and it probably isn't actually big enough. You got to pay real close attention. But that $50 fire extinguisher could save me an $11,000 machine that I couldn't replace for $11,000. I got, you know, if you needed one of these in a hurry, you know, you'd spend double that, because I spent a lot of time waiting around looking for different deals and all that. So I said on my Facebook page, I said I was going to I had a welder coming out. Here's the weld he did, he's a lot better welder than I am, for sure. That's why I paid him to come out. Let's see if I can get a shot of that from underneath. So this here, it had cracked all the way down and around here. And it looks to me like, and like I said, I'm not an expert welder. I'll have to get with buddy Luke, I guess, if I was to do inspection on this weld. It looks like he did a pretty good job to me. He ground it down and cleared it out. It had already been re-welded once, and he didn't like the way that weld was done either, so he ground it out, put a new weld in here, and what's better to me, and I think kind of an indication of what kind of a good workman is. He said if it broke, he'd come out and re-weld it for free, and he was fair on his price, and he trusts himself and his weld enough to guarantee it, knowing that these machines are worked hard. I don't abuse it, but I do. I put it through its paces. I work it pretty good, and the front boom on a backhoe takes a lot of stress, because it basically carries the front weight of the machine when you're digging. Because what you do is you put these outriggers down, that stabilizes the back end, or you blow tires left and right, and those tires are not cheap. And then the front end, you stabilize with the boom. Yeah, and that's the chicken house over there. And no, I don't just have a little kiddie pool up there. There's a reason for that. That's my chick raising machine. When they're real young, you don't want them to get out and around, you know. So you want to make sure that you're not abusing machines. So if I'd let that continue to break, that weld, I would have eventually had to take the boom probably all the way off, square it up, plate everything out. Been a lot more welding, a lot more time down and all that. And I don't have a whole lot of time because I got a full-time job in addition to all this stuff that I do around here. So another thing that just occurred to me here, if you got a piece like this on your machine, I gotta go in and get my pen. That is how you don't crush yourself. When you lift that up, so in fact I'll do it here in a minute. When you lift up your front boom here, this is pinned up usually. It's pinned up like that. Well, when you're going to work on the front end of it, like he was just welding it, I haven't used it since I welded, or since he got done welding it, except to bring it around here. That's what keeps it from falling down on somebody and them getting seriously injured or killed. And here's another thing that picked this up my dad was a truck driver. So this is a big round mirror. So I'm going to mount this up here so I can see behind me real clearly without having to turn around. You still check over your shoulders, but this lets you know if anybody's walking up behind you while you're working on something without constantly checking over your shoulder. And I may mount it up here. I may mount it over here on the side. I don't know. Because the way this machine is configured, you get your boom, that's your gear shift, brake. They had a water jug holder over there, so there isn't a lot of space for. There isn't a lot of space to get up and on and off over there. In fact, there's not even a step anymore, I don't think. All right, I haven't started this machine in probably a week and a half, so we'll see how it does. These old Ford diesels are pretty good. There it is. It starts and runs good. I like to let things warm up a little bit usually. It isn't cold here by any means, but I like to make sure that everything's kind of come up. The other thing, I showed you on my Ferguson on another video that gauges are just like a fire extinguisher. The gauge will save your machine too. So I'm a big fan of gauges, and I'm going to put, I've got a water temp on here. But my other gauges, they were electronic. This is an early 90s machine, and the gauges are terrible on these. So I'm just going to mount myself up here, a gauge cluster, where I can see it. Well, I say up here, either up here or right here on my instrument console. What you can see, I mean, it's all busted up there. The reason I'm thinking about putting it over here is so when you're running this backhoe, you're spun around the wrong way. You're facing backwards. See, now I'm facing off the back of the machine here. So if I put them over here, they won't be quite as obvious. There's the instrument panel again. They won't be quite as obvious when I'm driving the machine. But I'll be able to glance over and see if I'm overheating or, you know, losing oil pressure or something like that. Because you put the most work to these machines running the backhoe, or I do. Because I got these trees over here that get dug out. In fact, I said I wasn't going to run this, but it has been greased kind of recently. Again, it's like checking transmission and rear end oil. You want to... you kind of got to determine how long you're going to run, or how long things stay together. Oh, and I forgot one other thing here. I was going to show you the difference between cat controls and what I think on this is John Deere controls. So on a cat control machine, I'm just going to get this kind of turned so we can see. All right, back to this other way. See if I can avoid running my pickup here. All right, now. It'd be embarrassing running my truck on the video, wouldn't it? All right, so this stick here, see, that's your swing. Now, on a track hoe or a mini-excavator, that isn't, well, I haven't run one of those so long, I don't remember how the swing works. But on a track hoe, I should say I haven't run a mini-excavator in so long, I don't remember how the swing works. But on a track hoe, this is not swing. There isn't any such thing as a swing. This is actually, you're rotating the whole body of the machine above the track. So, and then, so on a cat machine, this stick, which is your rotation or your swing, is your stick control. On this machine, it is your boom up and down. Some people call it a stick. I always call it a stick. Some people call it a dipper. You can see out there when you move the right one up and in and out for me, it runs that in and out over there. So you push it out, push that stick out. It's pretty intuitive. The difference is on a cat machine, those are just backwards, as I remember anyway. It's been so long now. I just run whatever I get on, and it takes me 20 minutes or a half an hour. And then this here, this is your boom, or this is your bucket. Right? So you got boom up and down, stick or dipper in and out, and then bucket. And don't ask me why it goes one way or the other, but it makes sense when you run it. So now I'm gonna pull this in, and you can kind of see what I was saying about those hoses. They get a lot of flex. You know, like this hose goes up and down, it goes in there. You know, they're always getting moved around. So they actually take quite a bit of work to get, and they, you know, that wears them. You know, constant moving in the same direction all the time. Everything has memory of some kind. All right, and then, all right, I'm gonna get positioned over here. I'm gonna take out one of these trees, and I'll start back up when I'm taking it out and show you. All right, so we're back. Now, a lot of times I'll invert my bucket. So your bucket's one way like this, the flat edge on the bottom. You can set that on the ground there. A lot of times I'll invert it, so you're looking at the other side. It's like this, which gives you a little better grab on the ground, especially out here. But I got some stuff in my bucket right now, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to lift it up. And then I will turn around now. Put these down. putting the other one down right now. All right, so you got an accelerator on the floor back there. Right here you also have a throttle. And you kind of got to balance. Let's see if I can do this. You kind of got to balance your fuel consumption with your need for power, right? And your efficiency. And I'm gonna turn this off. I'll turn it right back on so we can kind of see what's going on over here, what I'm doing, I hope. All right, here we go. Being real careful of is I don't want to go very deep right here because I got a water line that runs through here somewhere, so I'm just grabbing right at the surface of this tree and I'm just going to break them off right at the roots because I don't want to have to replace a water line today. Try this. Method of digging out a tree. Well, like I said, I got a water line right there to worry about, so I'm not going to do my normal. I normally want to break off all the roots before I go trying to pull it out because I don't want them to come back. But this is kind of a special circumstance. I ain't the smoothest operator in the world. I'm not as bad as it made that last video. Made it appear trying to hold a phone and lost coffee somewhere. Trying to hold a phone and run a machine and keep track of where everything's going. Too much brain power for me. Now I'm just wandering around looking for. That shows how much brain power I got. I lost my coffee somewhere. Oh well. Go back for it, I guess, later on. All right, so let me show you what this deal looked like. See, that's an example. I almost walked through here, and I can tell you there's such a minute probability of anything happening here, but it's a machine operator's kind of nightmare to either get crushed by your own machine or crush anybody else or hurt anybody at all. So right now, you can see the rear tires are off the ground because my outriggers are down. So that could come down by, a foot. If it came down fast, it still hurt. I mean, you probably wouldn't be seriously injured walking through there because it's about probably 7 foot to the apex there, but still wouldn't feel very good hitting you on the head. And I don't like pain, so oh, I was going to show you how this tree turned out. So like I said, that water line runs to the house over my house my folks stay in when they come down here. I'm not really exactly sure where it is because I'm on a well, and the well is over there. So it comes over here somewhere, and I don't know if it goes through there. I'm gonna have to trace it down at some point, but I want it to be purposeful when I do. So anytime I'm digging right in this area, I'm real gentle to just stay right at the top. I don't want to dig very deep, so I'm always real gentle. And gave myself a good scare over here once. I dug up the old pipe accidentally, and that thing was about 4 inches below the surface. I dug it up accidentally with my front bucket. So I'm going to get to changing these filters. I got 2 air filters. I guess I could do a little tutorial, but I'll tell you it's not very interesting. So I'm going to cut this for now. I might throw that together as kind of a quick montage of some sort. But I just wanted to give you a little introduction to one of the other machines I got around the place here, which is by far the most powerful machine that I got. But I guess as a final thing, I don't know, I went back and forth on mini-excavator and a bobcat, or a mini-excavator and a tractor, or a tractor with a backhoe. Turns out I can't afford a mini-excavator right now. They're just too high. And a bobcat also is pretty pricey. A bobcat's a real handy machine, but it doesn't do, the attachments are a lot more, you can kind of beat yourself up using them too. If you get trying to do stuff too fast, you can beat yourself and the machine up. And I knew I was going to need a pretty good amount of power getting some of these trees out here, so I went with the backhoe idea. And then I got the little Ferguson, and I think, you know, maybe in the future if I get some contract work, I might end up with a little excavator or a bobcat, or, you know, a tractor with a bucket on it or something. But right now I just use that backhoe for anything I need a bucket or a boom any kind for. I use my little Ferguson for, well, probably the way a lot of people use those little UTVs, the side-by-sides, mules, whatever. And then for everything else, I got this old beat-up white truck. So I guess that's kind of my advice. Figure out what exactly it is that you need to do before you go off spending, you know, $50,000 on a couple of machines that might not. You might be able to do something cheaper, I guess, is all I'm saying. But then again, if you got $50,000 to throw around at machinery, I don't know. When you're done with it, send it this way, I guess. I'm gonna go find my coffee. If you like watching these, and you think there's any topics you'd like to hear about from down here in southern Arizona, you know, hit me up and I'll see what I can do. And if you think there's somebody else that might like to watch it, why don't you go ahead and send these over to them, and I'll try to keep them coming as long as I got time. Thanks for watching. In that last video I was saying that I might show you how to change these air filters out, and I'm going to just show you the assembling, because putting it back together is harder than getting it apart. So right now I got this rubber washer here. I guess I could show you what it is. Boy, that sun really tears up a shot, doesn't it? It's a good thing I never took any filmography or anything. I might have to toss it. Alright, so it's this kind of one side's rubber, one side's just a big washer. And what that does, if you look here on this, this is the outside filter. This machine has a split filter inside and outside. So I use a Wix filter, by the way. Wix makes, as far as I know, one of the better filters out there. Don't cheap out on your, especially your air filters, your oil filters either, because that's a quick way to machine failure that you can't really fix. So what this does is it goes right here. It seals around that stud, and then that nut works in, and it holds it tight. So right now, I'm threading that on right here because it's a tight fit, and I don't actually want to mess it up. So right now, it's just threading on. And I like to think that since I'm kind of taking a little extra time to get it on here, it might be a little closer, or a little tighter seal when it gets up there. I didn't want to wear it off, you know. And this is what I was saying here in that last video, which if you go back, it should be, it might be the next video, who knows. It'll be out at some point, if I don't cut it out anyway. So this is the safety. So this deal right now, I'll step back. It's safe. You lift this deal up, and then it can fall if you lose, you know, you get catastrophic hydraulic failure somewhere. But right now, it'd just fall about, I ain't gonna put my finger in there, but probably, you know, it's about like that, right? So maybe 3/8 of an inch or so. And well, I think that's in far enough. So now we're gonna put a nut on there, and that's what holds it in. And you're gonna have to keep an eye on this. You can see right here it's worn down. Somebody probably not having the filter tight enough, frankly. I mean, machine's better part of 30 years old, so I guess over time it'll vibrate. And then, so you can see, this is not what you want. This filter was bad. I mean, it was nasty. So, now some guys will blow these out, and I probably will in the future, but this is the filter that actually came on the machine, and I don't know how many times it's been blown out or anything like that. I just mean blowing it out with air pressure. You got to be careful. You can put a hole in the filter media, and these are my handy dandy pliers. I absolutely overuse these for things that they should not be used for. So I want to get a good seal. Just tighten it up to a point where it's stout there. All right, and now, so that's the inner seal, or the inner filter, which is kind of the fine filter. This one is a slide in there. It's a little bit coarser, I think, as far as I know anyway. So what that does is lets you, you can replace the outer filter if it gets bad, you know, about twice the rate of the inner one, or blow it out and not worry as much. You get kind of duplicative filtering, because always you're making dust on these kind of machines. So if you're digging, this thing's trying to breathe it, which I have thought about. This is your air. It's kind of a pre-filter sort of a deal, which actually doesn't look too bad. Just keeps the, it's not a filter at all, I shouldn't say that. But it keeps the, you know, bugs and stuff from getting in there. And we got to do the same thing with this and get it kind of twisted on there. So I've thought about putting, they make some other kind of attachments that you can put on here that's even a it is a filter that's a pre-filter before this. Because there is obviously an issue with having unfiltered air get into your engine, which is imminent failure. You'll do all sorts of damage. So now I'm just putting this on here, and this is a rubber ring around the outside that seals up against there as well. And then this is your pull tab. When you're taking it off, you pull it out with that tab. Of course, it looks like everything here is loose. I need to do some. I got these side plates off for this, though. When you put the side plates on, it's a lot sturdier. So here I'm just going to tighten this deal up, which you can see is sucking this rubber up against it. And then on the other end, so you can see how this one was, the other end of that filter in there too, this is a kind of a rubber washer, and that'll keep it, the other end of it, tight. Same thing on the inner one, of course. This is the outer end that had that washer on it. And then this end, that's actually a rubber ring that when you push it up against something, of course, you can see it deform there. So if there was some kind of thing sticking out back there, that would kind of form around it and still hopefully create a seal. I did a check in there and made sure there wasn't anything in there before. I am missing a little cover plate or cover cap here, but it's mostly for decoration, frankly. Oh, I forgot to. This is another thing, kind of like the well, doggone it. Of course, why wouldn't I? I'm gonna have to go wipe that off. Just drop that rubber seal. It should be in the lid of this. So there's your power steering on this. And don't ask me why it is that they put a power steering pump on a machine that has a hydraulic pump already. But they did. So you've got to, I don't know, got me as to why they did that rather than just routing off the hydraulic. You're never going to be using both at the same time, really. So I just would have done the one, but and that cap needs some work too. Alright, so yeah, you should never walk under this unless it's supported like that. So here's the route your air takes. It comes in through here. There's also an overpass or a bypass on the other side. I got some wiring I'm working on in here as well. It comes out of here. This elbow runs down. I forget exactly what this is supposed to do. In 1990 it probably worked. Right now it doesn't. Then to direct this is your intake manifold, I guess you'd say, because it's a direct injection system. Of course, these are your injectors here. So runs in there, and then you've got pure air that goes in there. Some other handy things you can see when you're testing things. This is where your firing order is: 1, 2, 3. 3-cylinder engine. What are you going to do? So some of the issues that I got here on this machine. I got some leaks. I got some faulty wiring, which is why I've got right now this auxiliary starter switch hooked up, which isn't ideal, but it does work. And so I got to fix that. I've got a leak on my I've got a fuel pump return or a fuel return line leak also that I am having a terrible time tracking down. Because there's just little lines everywhere. That's one reason I want to get this pressure washer. I can just go through, clean everything up, let it dry, then start it up, see exactly where I'm getting this liquid, this fuel leak from. Because that's money down the drain right there. You know, you don't make anything for running oil out onto the frame of your machine. So next filters I'm going to replace. This is the hydraulic filter down here, and then I need these are fuel filters and fuel water separator. So I got to order those up. I've got the hydraulic filter, I'll show it to you, but the fuel water separator I got to get those, and, which takes real high pressure, so it's an expensive sort of a thing. Well, I don't know if it takes much pressure, but it takes high volume. So this is about a $75 filter that I'm holding in my hand right now. It's jacketed on the inside and the outside. It's a pretty solid filter. But so I'm not sure if I want to run all the junk that's in this current hydraulic system through that filter, if I just want to go into town and put a few $100s worth of good quality hydraulic oil into this, and then, well, switched out all at the same time. But that's a problem for another minute, so I'm gonna go back to some other stuff I got going on around here. Probably lower this boom. And again, thanks for watching.